Hey guys, and welcome back. Tonight, our journey takes us to a world that is both familiar and terrifyingly alien. A world without antibiotics, without anesthesia, without even a basic understanding of the invisible germs that govern life and death. It is a world where a simple cut could be a death sentence, and where the most learned and respected healers base their cures on the alignment of the stars and the color of a patient's urine. You are about to fall ill. You are about to be injured. And you are about to receive the very best care the 14th century has to offer. This is the story of medieval medicine and why you wouldn't survive it. So, before the surgeon heats his irons in the fire, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journeys into the past. As always, it is a pleasure to see where you are all listening from, so let me know in the comments. All right, dim the lights, say a quiet prayer for your health, and let us step back in time. The world, for you, is made of wood. You are a master carpenter in the bustling, crowded, and prosperous city of London. Your life is measured in the scent of fresh-cut oak and pine, the feel of a perfectly balanced plane in your hands, and the satisfying, rhythmic rasp of a saw cutting a clean, true line. Your small workshop, attached to the back of the modest house where you live, with your wife and 2 small children, is your kingdom. The light from the single. The light from the single. Your natural environment is Wilding. Your small workshop, attached to the back of the modest house where you live with your wife and 2 small children, is your kingdom. High window streams in, illuminating a universe of swirling sawdust motes, a golden, dusty galaxy of your own making. You are a man of some standing. You are not a peasant, tied to the land and the seasons. You are a freeman, a respected member of the Carpenters' Guild. Your skill is your wealth. Your hands, strong and calloused, are the tools that provide the bread for your family, the roof over their heads, and the small comforts of a life well lived. As long as you are healthy, as long as you can work, your world is a good and orderly place. Today is a good day. The afternoon sun, a rare and welcome visitor in the London winter, streams through the window. You are working on the final decorative carvings for a magnificent dowry chest, a commission from a wealthy wool merchant for his daughter's wedding. The work is intricate, demanding your full attention. You are carving a panel of intertwined vines and leaves, a symbol of fertility and growth. You take up your favorite tool, a heavy 2-inch chisel with an edge so sharp you can shave the hairs from your arm with it, and a great, dense wooden mallet. You have spent the better part of the afternoon on this single panel, your mind lost in the pleasant, focused trance of your craft. The rhythmic tap, tap, tap of your mallet on the head of the chisel is the sound of your world in perfect, harmonious order. The end of the day is approaching. Your muscles are tired. A deep, familiar ache has settled in your lower back from leaning over the workbench for hours. You are thinking of the supper your wife is preparing, of the simple pleasure of a bowl of hot pottage and a mug of strong, dark ale. You are thinking of the sound of your children's laughter, and in that moment, your attention wavers. For a fraction of a second, your mind is not on the wood, not on the blade, but on the hearth fire in your home. It is a simple, common, and catastrophic mistake. Your next blow with the mallet is not perfectly centered. It strikes the head of the chisel at a slight, almost imperceptible angle. But in a craft of precision, it is the difference between perfection and disaster. The chisel, instead of biting cleanly into the oak, leaps. The force of the blow sends the heavy, sharpened piece of iron skittering sideways off the surface of the chest. Time seems to slow. You see the chisel, a dark, vicious blur, as it flies through the air. You try to pull your leg back, but you are slow, clumsy with fatigue. And then it strikes. There is no sound at first. There is only a sudden, shocking, and profoundly nauseating impact on your left thigh. It is not a sharp, cutting pain. It is a deep, sickening, and absolute violation. You look down. The heavy, dark iron of the chisel is embedded in your leg, the handle standing straight up, a grotesque, wooden flower that has bloomed from your own flesh. For a long, silent heartbeat, the world is perfectly still. Your brain refuses to comprehend what it is seeing. And then the pain arrives. It is a blinding, white-hot, and all-consuming wave of pure agony that seems to erupt from your leg and engulf your entire being. A sound is torn from your throat, a raw, animal cry of pain and shock that you do not even recognize as your own. You stumble back from the workbench, your leg suddenly unable to bear your weight. You collapse onto the sawdust-covered floor. The movement dislodges the chisel, and it falls from the wound with a soft thud. And with its departure, the blood comes. It is not a trickle. It is a shocking, astonishing, and terrifyingly fast rush of the brightest, most vibrant crimson you have ever seen. It pulses from the deep, gaping wound in a thick, steady rhythm, in time with the frantic, terrified beating of your own heart. It soaks through your thick woolen breeches in an instant, turning the dark fabric a glistening black. It begins to pool on the floor, a rapidly expanding, dark red stain on the pale, dusty wood shadings. Your wife bursts into the workshop, her face a mask of terror, drawn by your cry. She sees you on the floor, she sees the blood, and she screams. The initial, blinding pain begins to recede, replaced by a new, colder, and more intellectual kind of terror. You are a craftsman. You understand the mechanics of your own body. You know that a wound this deep, a bleeding this profuse, is not a simple matter. But more than that, you understand the consequences. Your legs are your foundation. Your health is your livelihood. This single, stupid, and careless slip of a tool in the last hour of a long day has the power to destroy everything you have built. Your wife is at your side now, tearing a strip from her apron, her hands trembling as she tries to press it into the wound to stanch the bleeding. But the blood just soaks through it, hot and relentless. You lie on the floor of your own workshop, the familiar, comforting smell of sawdust now mingling with the thick, coppery, and terrifying smell of your own life, pumping out of you and into the dust. The simple, orderly world of your craft has been shattered. You are no longer a carpenter. You are a patient, and your long, dark journey into the terrifying world of medieval medicine has just begun. You lie on the sawdust-covered floor of your workshop, a shipwreck in a sea of your own blood. The sharp, coppery smell of it is overwhelming, a scent that is both intimately yours and terrifyingly alien. Your wife, her face a mask of white, frantic terror, is pressing a wadded-up strip of her apron into the gaping wound on your thigh, but the blood simply soaks through it, dark and relentless. The pain is a living thing, a great, fire-toothed beast that has taken up residence in your leg. Your wife's first piercing scream has done its work. In this crowded London neighborhood, a cry of distress is a communal affair. You hear the sound of running feet, the urgent shouts of your neighbors. The door to your workshop is thrown open, and the room is suddenly filled with people. Your neighbor Thomas, the baker, his arms and face still white with flour. A leather worker from across the street. And, most importantly, old Elspeth, the midwife and unofficial healer of your small community. She is a woman of immense, practical authority. Her face a roadmap of wrinkles, her hands gnarled but steady. She takes in the scene in a single sweeping glance, you on the floor, the blood, your wife's panicked and useless efforts. She immediately takes command. "Fools!" she barks, her voice a surprisingly powerful rasp. "Pressure does nothing for a wound of this size. Stop the bleeding first, then bind it. Boy, you," she points to the baker's young apprentice, "get me cobwebs, the thick, dusty ones from the rafters of the shed. And you," she says to your wife, "get me wine, the strongest you have, and a clean linen cloth, if such a thing exists in this house." This is not the time to call for a surgeon. Such men are for the rich, for last, desperate resorts. The first and only line of defense for a man of your station is this: the inherited, ancient, and deeply flawed wisdom of the folk. This is the medicine of your people, a mixture of practical experience, superstition, and sheer desperate hope. The boy returns a moment later, his hands full of a disgusting, gray, dusty mass of cobwebs. Elspeth takes them without flinching. She pushes your wife's hands away from the wound. You look down, and you see the true, horrifying extent of the damage. The chisel has left a deep, clean-sided gash in your thigh, a great, weeping mouth of flesh from which your life is steadily pumping. Without ceremony, Elspeth takes the great wad of dusty cobwebs and packs it directly into the open wound. The pain is a new searing agony, and a scream is torn from your throat. The cobwebs, thick with the dust and grime of 100 years, are believed to be a magical agent, a web that can staunch the flow of blood. And indeed, as she presses down hard, the profuse bleeding does begin to slow, thanks more to the immense pressure she is applying and the natural clotting of your own blood than to any property of the webs themselves. Your wife returns with a jug of wine and a strip of linen torn from a wedding sheet. Elspeth takes the jug and, without warning, pours a great splash of the raw, sour wine directly into the wound, over the packed cobwebs. The pain is so intense, so absolute, that the world turns white. The wine is not for cleaning in any sense you would understand. It is to counteract the cold nature of the iron that caused the wound, a matter of balancing the humors of the injury itself. Now comes the heart of the treatment, the poultice. Elspeth begins to issue a new set of commands. "Thomas, the dung pile behind your bakehouse. I need fresh, warm cow dung, not horse, cow. And you, girl," she says to another neighbor, "bring me comfrey leaves and yarrow from your garden, and honey. Get the honey pot from my own house." You lie there, weak from blood loss, your mind a feverish haze of pain, and you watch as this strange, terrible medicine is prepared. The old woman takes a wooden bowl and begins to mix her concoction. She takes a handful of the warm, steaming cow dung, its foul, earthy smell filling your workshop. To this, she adds the crushed green leaves of the comfrey and the yarrow. And finally, a great, sticky scoop of honey. She mixes it all together with her bare hands, creating a thick, warm, greenish-brown, and utterly repulsive paste. This, she explains to your weeping wife, is a poultice of great power. The dome, she says, has a powerful drawing property. It will pull the corruption and the bad humors out of the wound. The honey is a gift from God that seals the flesh. The herbs are for knitting the skin back together. She takes a great handful of this warm, foul-smelling mixture and plasters it directly over the wound, on top of the blood-soaked cobwebs. She packs it down, ensuring the gash is completely filled and covered by this thick, unhygienic blanket of dung and herbs. The final act is the binding. She takes the strip of your wedding linen, which is clean by the standards of your day, but is by no means sterile, and she wraps it tightly around your thigh, sealing the poultice in place. The treatment is complete. The bleeding has stopped. The wound is bound. You are carried from your workshop, from the scene of your professional life, and into your home, where you are laid upon your bed. The neighbors and your wife look down at you, their faces filled with a tired relief. They have done it. They have fought back against the sudden violence of the accident. They have used the ancient, trusted wisdom of their people. They believe they have saved you. You lie there, a fire of pure agony in your leg, and beneath the tightly bound linen, under the layer of dung and herbs and cobwebs, in the warm, dark, and now sealed environment of your deep and dirty wound, the real enemy, the invisible army of infection, has just been given the perfect, fertile, and undisturbed ground in which to marshal its forces and begin its terrible work. You have been carried from your workshop, the place of your competence and your pride, and laid upon your own bed, a sudden and unwelcome invalid. The neighbors, their duty done, have departed with quiet murmurs of sympathy and reassurance. Old Elspeth, the midwife, gives your wife a final confident nod. Keep him warm. Let him rest. The poultice will draw the bad humors by morning. Then she too is gone. The world shrinks to the confines of your small bedchamber. The room is a familiar sanctuary, but it now feels alien, a prison of pain. The fading afternoon light gives way to a deep, profound darkness, held at bay only by a single, sputtering tallow candle on a small table by your bed. Its light is weak, its flame dancing with every draught, casting huge, monstrous shadows that writhe and twist on the wattle and daub walls. The air is thick with the smells of the night, the rendered animal fat of the candle, the faint, lingering smell of the stew from the evening meal, and now a new, unwelcome addition, the foul, earthy, and slightly sweet smell of the dung and herb poultice that is packed into your leg. Your wife sits on a low stool beside you, a silent, fearful vigil. Her face, in the flickering gloom, is a pale mask of worry. She does not speak, for there is nothing to say. She simply watches you, occasionally dipping a cloth into a basin of cool water and bathing your forehead. At first, the pain is a simple, honest thing. It is the sharp, clean memory of the chisel's bite, a searing pain that you can understand. It is a fire, and you must simply endure its heat. You lie there, your teeth gritted, and you try to find a place in your mind where the pain cannot reach you. You try to think of the half-finished dowry chest, of the smooth, satisfying feel of the oak under your plane. But the fire in your leg is too loud as the night deepens. The pain begins to change. It is no longer a clean, sharp fire. A new sensation begins to bloom from deep within the wound, a feeling of immense, swelling pressure. It is a slow, rhythmic, and powerful throbbing. It is a heartbeat of pure agony, a second, monstrous heart that has taken up residence in your thigh, a heart that beats in time with your own frantic, terrified pulse. Throb, throb, throb. With every beat, a wave of sickening pain radiates through your entire body. And with this new rhythm comes a new kind of heat. The fire is no longer just the memory of the wound. It is a real and present furnace. Your entire leg, from hip to knee, begins to burn with a profound and unnatural heat. It feels as though the poultice is not made of dung, but of the glowing coals from your own hearth, packed directly into your flesh. You touch the woolen blanket that covers your leg, and even through the thick fabric, you can feel the impossible heat radiating from your own body. This is not the heat of a simple injury. This is the heat of a body at war with itself. Then comes the first great wave of the fever. It begins as a deep internal cold. A violent, uncontrollable shivering seizes your body, so powerful it makes the wooden frame of the bed rattle. Your teeth chatter with a loud, clattering sound. You are piled with every blanket in the house, yet you have never felt so cold in your life. It is the cold of the grave, a chill that seems to come from the very marrow of your bones. Your wife, her face now a mask of pure panic, tries to hold you, to warm you with her own body, but it is no use. The shivering is a storm inside you. After an hour of this frozen torment, the storm breaks and the tide turns. The shivering stops, and it is replaced by a raging, all-consuming heat. The fever has taken you. Your skin, which was pale and clammy, is now dry and burning to the touch. The cool, damp cloth your wife places on your forehead feels like a piece of blessed, life-giving ice for a moment. And then it too is hot, its moisture evaporating in a wisp of steam. Your mind, which had been a clear pool of pain, now becomes a muddy, swirling fog. The familiar room begins to warp and twist. The dancing shadows on the wall are no longer just shadows. They are demons, whispering and mocking you. The quiet concern on your wife's face melts and reshapes itself into the grim, judgmental face of your own father, long dead. You begin to speak, but the words are nonsense, a jumbled litany of names and places from your childhood. A desperate attempt by your drowning mind to find a familiar shore. In a brief, terrifying moment of lucidity, the fog clears. You are aware of the room again. You are aware of the unbearable, throbbing pressure in your leg. The binding, you gasp to your wife. Your voice, a dry, cracked thing you do not recognize. It's too tight. Loosen it. With trembling fingers, she undoes the knot and begins to gently unwrap the bandage. Before the wound is even visible, a new smell rises to meet her, and she recoils with a choked cry. It is not the honest smell of dung. It is a new, foul, and sickly sweet stench. It is the smell of corruption. It is the smell of rotting flesh. You force yourself to look down. In the weak candlelight, you see the truth. The skin around the wound is no longer a healthy pink or an angry red. It is a deep, swollen, and bruised-looking purple. And worse, much worse, you can see them, faint but unmistakable, thin red lines, like the legs of a spider, like tiny red serpents, are beginning to snake their way up your thigh, away from the wound and towards the heart of your body. You have seen this before. Every man, woman, and child of your age knows what these lines mean. They are the heralds of death. They are a sign that the poison of the wound has broken free and is now flowing through your blood. The long night is over. The dawn is breaking, its weak, gray light seeping through the shutters. But you know, with a sudden, absolute, and soul-shattering certainty, that your own light is beginning to fade. The folk remedy has not just failed. It has fed the enemy. And that enemy is now consuming you from within. The sun rises. Its weak, watery winter light seeps through the cracks in the wooden shutters, painting pale, dusty stripes across the floor of your bedchamber. For the rest of the city of London, this is the beginning of a new day, a return to the familiar rhythms of work and life. For you, it is the dawn of your own personal apocalypse. You are floating in a terrible, red-hot ocean of fever. Moments of delirious confusion where you are a boy again in your father's workshop are interspersed with brief, horrifying flashes of absolute clarity. It is in one of these moments of clarity that you see it again. You look down the length of your own body at your wounded leg. In the cold, honest light of morning, the truth is even more stark. The skin of your thigh is no longer just purple. It is a swollen, grotesque landscape of deep, angry black and a sickening mottled green. And the red lines, the tiny serpents of poison, are no longer faint. They are thick, vivid, and they have crawled further up your leg. A visible map of the infection's relentless march towards your heart. You look from your leg to the face of your wife. She has been sitting by your side all night, a silent, sleepless sentinel. Her face is a ruin. Her eyes are wide with a terror that has burned past the point of tears. Her hope, which was a small, fragile flame last night, has been utterly extinguished. She has seen what you have seen, and she knows what it means. Old Elspeth, the midwife, came at dawn. She looked at the wound, at the red lines, and the usual. Confident authority in her face crumbled. She changed the poultice, applying a fresh, steaming concoction of dung and herbs. But it was a gesture of futility, a ritual performed without faith. She whispered a prayer, made the sign to ward off evil, and left, her face grim. The world of folk remedies, of cobwebs and kitchen herbs, has failed. Its power has been broken. You are now in a new and terrifying territory, a land beyond the reach of neighborly help and ancient wisdom. And in this land, there is only one possible path left to take. The name hangs unspoken in the thick, silent air of the room. It is a name that is only uttered in moments of the most extreme and final desperation. The barber surgeon. To summon a man of his trade is not like calling for a priest or a midwife. It is an admission of absolute defeat. It is a declaration to your entire neighborhood that your own household has failed, that your affliction is so profound it requires the intervention of a man who deals in knives, saws, and hot irons. And it is an act of almost unimaginable expense. You're a master carpenter, a man of some means, but a surgeon's fee is a king's ransom for a man of your station. You know what it will cost. It will cost the silver goblets from your wife's dowry. It will cost the sale of your finest oak, which you have been seasoning for years to make a set of choir stalls for the local church. It may cost the sale of this very house, this workshop that has been in your family for generations. To summon the surgeon is to invite not just a stranger into your home, but to invite financial ruin. It is to agree to bankrupt your family for a chance, a slim and terrifying chance at survival. And then there is the fear. You have heard the stories. Everyone has. You have heard the screams that come from behind the closed doors where the surgeons do their work. You have seen the men who have gone under the surgeon's knife. Men who have emerged missing a limb, their bodies a landscape of horrific, weeping scars. The surgeon is not a healer in the gentle sense of the word. He is a butcher of men, a craftsman whose tools are not wood and chisel, but flesh and bone. His cures are a form of controlled, professional agony, often more terrifying than the disease they are meant to treat. You lie in your bed, the fever of fire in your blood, and you weigh these terrible costs in your mind. The cost of your family's future. The cost of the pain you will have to endure. You weigh it all against the silent, certain alternative. The red lines that are even now crawling up your leg, the creeping, inevitable victory of the poison within you. You look at your wife. Her face is a mask of indecision and terror. She is waiting for you. She is waiting for you to make the choice, to give her the permission to ruin you in order to save you. In your fevered haze, you see your children. You see their faces, young and frightened, peering around the edge of the chamber door. And in that moment, the choice becomes clear. The cost is irrelevant. The pain is irrelevant. You gather what little strength you have left. You reach out a hand, your skin hot and dry as paper, and you touch your wife's arm. She looks at you, her eyes swimming with unshed tears. You manage a single cracked and rasping word. Go. Her face crumples in a mixture of terrible grief and profound relief. She does not need to ask what you mean. She knows. She clasps your hand for a moment, a silent, desperate promise. Then she rises. She pulls her woolen shawl over her head, straightens her back, and becomes a woman with a purpose. She must now run through the morning streets of London, to the district where the guilds of the surgeons and the barbers have their shops, and she must trade the entirety of your family's worldly wealth for the services of a man with a sharp knife and a strong stomach. She leaves. You are left alone in the room, the sounds of the city just beginning to filter in through the shutters. The distant cry of a street vendor, the ringing of the bells from a nearby church. It is a normal morning for the rest of the world. But for you, it is a morning of profound, silent, and absolute dread. You have exhausted the world of folk wisdom. You have now entered the terrifying, professionalized world of medicine. You lie in your sweat-soaked bed, listening, waiting for the sound of a pair of heavy, confident footsteps on your stairs. The sound of a man who profits from the pain of others, coming to begin his terrible work. You lie alone in the fever-haunted quiet of your room. The sounds of the London morning, the distant cry of a street vendor selling oysters, the rumble of a heavy cart on the cobblestones, the holy and indifferent ringing of the bells from a nearby church, all seem to come from a different world, a world of the living to which you no longer belong. Your own world has shrunk to this sweat-soaked bed, the throbbing, fiery agony in your leg, and the all-consuming dread of what is to come. Then you hear it, the sound you have been waiting for, with a mixture of desperate hope and abject terror. The sound of heavy, confident footsteps on the wooden stairs that lead to your chamber. He is here. The door to your room opens. Your wife enters first, her face pale and drawn, her eyes red from weeping. And behind her, filling the doorway, is the man she has brought, the man for whom she has just traded your family's entire future. He is the barber surgeon. He is a large man, broad and thick-set, with a great, bushy, black beard, and hands as large and as calloused as a blacksmith's. He has the powerful, sturdy build of a man whose work requires not just skill, but immense physical strength. He wears a simple, dark woolen tunic, but over it is the uniform of his trade, a heavy, stiff leather apron that reaches from his chest to his knees. It is a patchwork of dark, ominous stains, some old and faded, others a more recent, rust-colored brown. It is the color of old blood. He smells not of medicines or herbs, but of the city itself, of wood smoke, of sweat, of the cheap, sour ale from the tavern he has likely just come from. He does not look at you, not at first. His gaze sweeps around the small room, assessing, calculating. He is not seeing a place of domestic life. He is seeing a work site. His eyes, small and shrewd under thick brows, are not unkind, but they are utterly devoid of sympathy. This is not a healer come to offer comfort. This is a craftsman, come to perform a difficult and unpleasant job. You are not a patient to him. You are the raw material. You have the fee? He asks your wife. His voice a low, gravelly rumble. She nods, her hands trembling as she holds out a small, heavy-looking cloth bag. It contains the coins she received from selling your finest set of carving chisels and the silver goblets that were her dowry. The surgeon takes the bag, weighs it in his massive hand with a practiced motion, and then tucks it into his belt without a word. The transaction is complete. The work may now begin. He walks to the small table by your bed, and with a single sweeping motion, he clears the jug of water and the candle to the floor. He needs the space for his own tools. From his belt, he unhooks a long, heavy roll of worn, cracked leather, tied shut with a leather thong. He places it on the table, and with a theatrical flourish, he unrolls it with a loud slap. The tools of his trade are revealed. Your heart seizes in your chest. You have worked with iron and steel your entire life, but these are a different and more terrifying species of instrument. They are not the clean, precise tools of a carpenter. They are the brutal, functional tools of a butcher of men. You see a row of knives and lancets of different sizes, their blades sharpened but stained with the ghosts of past work. You see a set of heavy, cruel-looking forceps and probes, designed for pulling and exploring the hidden depths of a wound. You see a small, heavy-toothed amputation saw, its blade a dark, ominous gray. And you see the cauterizing irons, a set of long iron rods with differently shaped heads, one flat and round, another a sharp point, their ends blackened and scaled from their countless journeys into the fire. He does not wash his hands. He does not wash his tools. He simply surveys them with a professional's eye. Then, he turns his attention to you. He approaches your bed, and the room seems to shrink around his large presence. He does not speak a word of comfort. He simply takes the edge of your blankets and, with a single, powerful motion, throws them back, exposing your wounded leg. Then, without any warning, he takes hold of the filthy, dung and herb-caked bandage and rips it away. The pain is a fresh, white-hot explosion. The cloth, which has become stuck to the weeping, festering wound, tears away a layer of your own skin. A scream catches in your throat, but you choke it back down, your body rigid with agony. The wound is now exposed to the air. It is a horrifying sight. The flesh is swollen, a grotesque landscape of angry purple and black, glistening with a foul-smelling, yellowish pus. The surgeon looks down at it, not with horror, but with a kind of grim, professional satisfaction. He has seen this 1,000 times before. "Ah," he grunts, a sound of recognition. The old woman's poultice, a fine incubator for corruption. He reaches out with a single, thick, and shockingly dirty finger and prods the swollen edge of the wound. The touch sends a wave of pure, sickening agony through your entire body, so intense it makes your vision go black for a moment. "The humors are rotten," he declares to your wife, ignoring your pained gasp completely. "The flesh is putrefying. It must be cleansed." He turns back to his terrible roll of tools. He scans them for a moment. Then he selects a long, slender lancet with a wickedly sharp point. He holds it up to the light, inspecting its edge. He turns to your wife, his face a mask of pure, practical command. "Woman," he says, his voice leaving no room for argument. "The boy, tell him to build up a fire in the hearth. I will need the irons to be hot, very hot." The surgeon's final words, "very hot," hang in the small, terrified silence of your bedchamber. Your wife, her face a mask of pale, tear-streaked dread, gives a small, choked sob and scurries out of the room to find your young son and deliver the terrible command. You are left alone with the surgeon, a prisoner under the watchful, unsentimental gaze of his executioner. The smell of him, of stale ale, of old blood, of the damp wool of his tunic, fills the air around you, a suffocating, earthy smell of death. You lie on the bed, your body a landscape of pain, your mind a swirling fog of fever. But through the haze, you watch him. You watch him as he turns his attention away from you, and back to his terrible collection of tools. He is not preparing to treat you yet. He is, you realize, preparing to diagnose you. The wound itself, the gaping, festering, and agonizing source of your torment, seems to be of only secondary interest to him. He has seen it. He has named it corruption. But to a man of his learning, the wound is not the disease. It is merely a symptom, a single, foul window into the deeper and more fundamental sickness that has taken root in your entire being. Before he can treat the symptom, he must first understand the true nature of the underlying disease. And for this, he has a science. It is the great science of the age, a wisdom passed down from the ancient Greeks, a complex and elegant system for understanding the workings of the human body. It is the theory of the four humors. He approaches your bed again. He does not look at your leg. Instead, he takes your wrist in his large, surprisingly steady hand. His fingers are cool and calloused against your burning skin. He is not counting the frantic, terrified beating of your pulse. He is feeling for its quality. He closes his eyes for a moment, his brow furrowed in concentration, like a musician listening for a subtle harmony. "Ah," he says, his voice a low, satisfied grunt. He is speaking more to himself than to you, a professional confirming a hypothesis. The pulse is rapid, yes, but it is also full and hard. It leaps against the fingers. He opens his eyes and looks at your wife, who has just returned to the doorway. "A sanguine pulse," he declares, his tone that of a scholar delivering a lecture. A clear and undeniable sign of an excess of blood. The humor is too hot and too moist. It is boiling within him. You stare at him, your mind struggling to grasp the strange academic words. Sanguine, hot, and moist. It is the language of a world far removed from your simple workshop. He releases your wrist, and his gaze sweeps over the rest of your body, not as a man looking at a person, but as a farmer assessing his livestock. He points a thick, dirty finger at your face. "Observe the complexion," he instructs your wife. "The high color in his cheeks, the redness of his skin. This is not the blush of health. It is the sign of a fever born of a surfeit of color, of yellow bile. Another hot humor, but this one is dry. The two are at war within him, the hot moist blood and the hot dry bile, and their battle is creating a corrupting heat that is poisoning his entire system. His logic is a strange and terrifying thing. The symptoms of your body's desperate, natural fight against the infection, the fever, the inflammation, the rapid heartbeat, are not seen as signs of a struggle for health. They are seen as the disease itself. Your own life force has become your enemy. He finally deigns to look down at your leg again. He gestures towards the swollen, purple, and weeping wound with an air of triumphant confirmation. "And here," he says, "is where the battle spills out from the body. The flesh has grown hot and rotten because it is overwhelmed with these corrupting humors. It is like a bog in summer, a place where the heat and the damp have conspired to create a pestilence. The wound is not the cause of his sickness, woman. It is merely the sewer through which the sickness is trying to escape. You lie there, a prisoner in your own sweat-soaked bed, and you listen to this terrible, elegant, and utterly insane diagnosis. It has a logic of its own, a perfect, self-contained system that explains everything and understands nothing. You feel the source of your agony, the single searing point of pain where the chisel struck you. But this man, this great and learned surgeon, tells you that this is merely a footnote to a grander, more systemic story of your own internal corruption. You have been unmade as a person. You are no longer a man with a wounded leg. You are a vessel of unbalanced fluids, a walking civil war of humors. Having completed his diagnosis, the surgeon now outlines his plan of attack. He is a general, and he will wage a two-front war. He turns to your wife, his voice now crisp with command. "First," he declares, "we must release the pressure. We must bleed him. We will open a vein in his arm, far from the wound, to drain the excess of the hot sanguine humor that is boiling his blood and feeding his fever." He pauses, then looks back down at your leg, his eyes narrowing. "Then," he says, his voice dropping lower, "we must deal with the local corruption. We must cleanse the putrefied flesh and seal the gateways so that the foul vapors from the wound do not continue to poison the air and, by extension, his spirit. For that, we will need the fire. The diagnosis is complete. It is a masterpiece of medieval science. and it is a death sentence. The surgeon stands back from your bed, confident in his learned assessment, in his elegant and all-encompassing theory. He has identified the enemy. He has formulated his plan of attack. And you lie there, weaker and more terrified than ever, knowing that you are about to be systematically, professionally, and scientifically tortured, based on a logic that has nothing to do with the simple, brutal reality of the dirty wound that is killing you. The surgeon's diagnosis, a cascade of learned and terrifying words, hangs in the air of your small chamber, a verdict from which there is no appeal. Your wife, her face a mask of awe and terror, nods at his pronouncements, her faith in this grim, confident man absolute. The command has been given. The fire in the hearth is being built up by your young son, his face pale, his movements quick and frightened. The irons will be hot soon. But the cleansing by fire, the surgeon explains with a patient, lecturing tone, is the second step. The first and most crucial step is to address the root of the problem. You must be bled. The corruption is systemic, the surgeon says, his voice a low rumble as he turns back to his role of terrible instruments. The fever is born of a boiling of the blood. The body is like an overfull pot, simmering on the fire of his choleric humor. To cool the pot, we must first let some of the liquid out. It is a simple, elegant, and utterly convincing logic. And it is a logic that will now be applied not to a pot, but to you. He turns his attention away from your wounded leg, the source of all your agony. His gaze is now fixed upon your right arm, your healthy arm. In his world, the sickness is not in the wound. It is in your entire being, in the very river of life that flows through your veins. He approaches your bedside, now holding not a knife, but a different set of tools. He has a small, polished wooden bowl. He has a long, thin strip of worn black leather, and he has an instrument called a fleam. It is a piece of heavy, polished steel from which 3 different-sized, triangular blades can be folded out, like a farmer's pocket knife, but a pocket knife designed for opening veins. Your wife, her eyes wide, comes to your other side. "You must be still," she whispers, her voice trembling. "You must be brave." She takes your hand, her grip cold and tight. The surgeon does not waste time. He takes your right arm, his grip powerful and impersonal, and lays it out on the mattress beside you. He wraps the leather strip tightly around your bicep, pulling it so taut that it bites into your skin. Almost immediately, you can feel the pressure building in your arm, a deep, uncomfortable throbbing. The veins on the inside of your elbow, which were once faint blue lines, now swell and rise, becoming thick, dark, and prominent against your pale, feverish skin. They are ready for the harvest. He runs his thick, dirty thumb over the swollen veins, palpating them, searching for the largest and most promising one. He is a craftsman, and he knows the landscape of the human body as you know the grain of a piece of oak. "Ah, this one," he grunts in satisfaction. "A fine and generous vessel." He selects the medium-sized blade on his fleam and unfolds it. He places the sharp, triangular point of the blade directly over your swollen vein. You turn your head away, squeezing your wife's hand, your entire body tensing in anticipation of the pain. You do not feel a slice. You feel a sharp, sudden, and forceful tap. He has used a small wooden baton to strike the back of the fleam, a quick, percussive blow that drives the blade through your skin and into the vein. The pain is sharp, a clean and stinging shock, entirely different from the deep, rotting ache in your leg. And then comes the blood. It does not seep or trickle, it flows, a thick, steady, and shockingly worn stream of dark, crimson blood gushes from the small cut, runs down your arm, and begins to pour into the wooden bowl he has placed beneath your elbow. You can hear it, a soft, steady, liquid sound, the sound of your own life draining away. You force yourself to look. You watch with a kind of detached, feverish horror as the bowl begins to fill. This, the surgeon explains to your wife, is the corrupting humor itself. He peers at the blood as it flows, a connoisseur judging a fine wine. "See how dark it is," he says, his voice full of professional pride. "And how thick. It is heavy with the choleric heat, the very essence of his fever. We are drawing the poison out." The process continues. The bowl is a quarter full. Then half full. A strange lightness begins to fill your head. The sounds of the room, the surgeon's low voice, your wife's quiet weeping, the crackle of the fire, begin to seem distant, as if you are hearing them from the bottom of a well. The edges of your vision begin to soften and gray. A cold, clammy sweat breaks out on your forehead, a stark contrast to the burning heat of your fever. "I feel faint," you manage to rasp, the words thick and clumsy on your tongue. "Excellent," the surgeon says with a satisfied nod, "is the sign that the humors are coming into balance. The body is releasing its excess. We are nearly there." He is not just removing blood. He is removing your strength, your consciousness, your very will to resist. You feel a deep primal urge to pull your arm away, to stop this terrible, weakening flow. But you are too weak. You can only lie there and watch as the bowl fills. The dark red liquid, a testament to your own diminishing life. Finally, when the bowl is nearly full, and you are on the very edge of unconsciousness, the surgeon seems satisfied. "Enough," he declares. With a swift movement, he removes the leather tourniquet from your arm. The torrential flow of blood immediately slows to a sluggish trickle. He takes a wad of clean linen, presses it firmly onto the small bleeding cut, and then binds your arm tightly. The first treatment is complete. The surgeon holds up the bowl, which now contains nearly a pint of your own warm, dark blood, and shows it to your wife with an air of profound accomplishment. "The corruption is drawn out," he says. "The first battle is won." You are left feeling unimaginably weak, your body limp and cold with sweat, your mind a dizzying, nauseous swirl. Your healthy arm now has a new, fresh, and bleeding wound. The raging fire of your fever has not subsided in the slightest. In fact, without the strength of your own blood to fight it, it seems to burn even hotter. But in the strange and terrible logic of this room, a great victory has been achieved. You have been scientifically, methodically, and professionally weakened, all in the name of a cure. And now, the surgeon turns his attention and his hot irons back to your leg. You lie on the bed, a ghost in your own body. The world has become a distant, swimming thing, a collection of sounds and lights that have no meaning. The bloodletting has left you profoundly weak, a hollowed-out vessel, adrift on a gray sea of fever and nausea. Your wife is a blurry, weeping shape in the corner of your vision. The only solid, real thing in your universe is the large, grim presence of the surgeon. A man who has just successfully drained your body of its strength and now lows over you, ready to begin the next phase of his terrible art. His attention, which had been so focused on the healthy humors of your arm, now returns to the source of the corruption, your wounded leg. In his mind, he has won the systemic battle by weakening the boiling river of your blood. Now, he must engage in the local skirmish to cleanse the polluted bog where the corruption has pooled. He approaches the bed, his movements slow, deliberate, and devoid of any gentleness. He is not a healer coming to soothe. He is a craftsman coming to work on a difficult and damaged piece of material. You are the material. Hold him, he grunts to your wife and to the baker, Thomas, who has been summoned from next door, his face pale, with a neighborly and terrified sense of duty. They each take one of your arms, their grip meant to be comforting, but feeling like the shackles of a prisoner. The surgeon takes hold of the filthy, dung-caked bandage that still clings to your thigh. Last night, this was a symbol of hope, a folk remedy applied with the best of intentions. Now, in the cold light of day, it is a foul, stiffened shroud, glued to your skin by a mixture of dried blood and weeping pus. With a single, powerful, and utterly unsentimental motion, he rips it away. A scream, raw and animal, is torn from your throat. The pain is a fresh flaying agony. A sheet of fire that engulfs your entire leg. The cloth, which has become one with your inflamed skin, tears away, taking with it a layer of your own flesh. The wound is now fully exposed, unveiled to the world in all its horrifying glory. A profound and terrible stench fills the small room, a smell so foul it makes the baker gag and turn his head away. It is the sickly sweet, cloying, and deeply nauseating smell of dying flesh. It is the smell of gangrene. The wound itself is a nightmare. The clean, sharp gash left by the chisel is gone. In its place is a great, swollen, and weeping crater. The flesh around it is not a healthy red or an honest purple of a bruise. It is a grotesque and mottled landscape of black, where the tissue has died, and a sickly, putrid green. The wound itself is oozing a thick, yellowish, and foul-smelling pus. And the red lines you saw at dawn, the serpents of poison, are now thicker, darker, and have crawled ominously further up your thigh. Your wife lets out a low, mournful wail, a sound of utter despair. But the surgeon does not recoil. He does not flinch. He leans in closer, his expression not one of disgust, but of intense, focused, professional interest. He is a master craftsman, and this is a classic example of the enemy he has spent his life fighting. "As I suspected," he murmurs, his voice a low, satisfied rumble. The putrefaction is deep. The humors are thoroughly corrupt. He needs to know more. He needs to know the depth of the rot. He turns to his leather roll of tools and selects a long, thin, and brutally simple instrument. It is a probe, a slender rod of cold gray iron. He does not wipe it. He does not clean it. He simply turns back to you. "Hold him steady," he commands. You see the iron rod approaching your leg. You try to pull away, a useless, pathetic thrashing of a trapped animal, but the baker and your wife hold you fast. And then he pushes the probe into the wound. The pain is a new and previously unimagined dimension of agony. It is not the sharp pain of a cut, nor the burning pain of a raw surface. It is a deep, violating, and sickening pain that seems to touch the very center of your being. You feel the cold, unyielding iron sliding past the outer layers of flesh, deep into the heart of the infection, into a place of profound, untouchable agony. Your scream is a choked, strangled thing, and the world dissolves into a swirling, black vortex of pure, absolute pain. You are vaguely aware of the surgeon withdrawing the probe. He inspects its tip, which is now coated in a thick, foul mixture of blood and pus. He nods, his diagnosis confirmed. The corruption has reached the deep flesh, he announces to the room. It has taken root close to the bone. We must burn it out before it consumes the entire limb. He has seen everything he needs to see. He has confirmed his theories. The most terrifying thing, you realize in a moment of feverish clarity, is his complete and utter detachment. He is not a sadist. He does not enjoy your pain. He simply does not register it as a relevant factor in his work. Your screams, your suffering, it is all just the incidental noise produced by the material he is working on, like the screech of a saw biting into a piece of green wood. His inspection is complete. His terrible, flawed, and deadly science has given him a clear and certain path forward. He turns away from you and your ruined leg, and he walks to the hearth, where the fire now roars. He picks up a long iron poker. You watch, your mind a haze of terror, as he uses it to stir the coals, bringing them to a fierce, white-hot glow. Then, he carefully, deliberately, places the long, black rods of his cauterizing irons directly into the heart of the flames. The examination is over. The cleansing is about to begin. The surgeon turns his back on you and your weeping, festering wound. His attention is now entirely on the hearth. The fire, which your young son has been feeding with a terrified diligence, is now a roaring white-hot inferno. It is no longer a source of comfort. It has been transformed into a tool of the surgeon's trade, a furnace for preparing his instruments of purification. You watch, your mind a numb, detached landscape of terror, as he takes the two long, black cauterizing irons and pushes their ends deep into the very heart of the glowing coals. One iron has a flat, round, coin-shaped head, designed for sealing the surface of a wound. The other is a thin, sharp-pointed rod, designed for probing and burning the corruption from the deeper flesh. You watch as the black iron begins its slow, terrible transformation. First, it glows a dull, sullen red, like a dying ember. Then, as it absorbs the furious heat of the fire, its color brightens to a vibrant cherry red. Finally, it reaches the pinnacle of its heat, a brilliant, almost white-hot incandescence, a sliver of the sun itself, brought here into your small, dark room. A shimmering heat haze, like the air above a sun-baked road, dances around the tips of the irons. They are ready. The surgeon does not seem to feel the heat. He is a creature of the fire. He turns from the hearth, his face illuminated from below by the hellish glow of the coals, making his features a grotesque mask of light and shadow. In one hand, he holds a wooden bucket filled with water. In the other, he takes up a long pair of iron tongs. He looks at your wife and the baker, Thomas, who are still holding your arms. "This will be a great battle," he says, his voice a low, serious rumble. "The corruption is a stubborn demon. It will not be cast out easily. He will fight, he will thrash. You must not, under any circumstances, let him move. If he moves at the wrong moment, the iron could slip and burn the healthy flesh, or worse, the bone itself. Hold him as if your own lives depend on it." His words are a death knell. Your wife's face, already a mask of pale grief, seems to crumble further. The baker, a good and simple man, looks terrified, but he sets his jaw, a look of grim determination in his eyes. He is here to do his neighborly duty, however horrific. They reposition themselves. They are no longer holding your hands in a gesture of comfort. They are now your jailers. The baker puts his considerable weight onto your right shoulder, pinning you to the sweat-soaked mattress. Your wife, with a strength you did not know she possessed, throws her entire body across your chest, her own tears falling hot onto your face. You are immobilized, a sacrifice laid out upon the altar of your own bed. The surgeon uses his tongs to pull the first iron from the fire. It is the one with the long, pointed tip. As he lifts it from the coals, it seems to fill the entire room with its malevolent, white-hot glow. A shower of tiny, bright orange sparks flies from it. You can feel its heat on your face from across the room, a dry, scorching presence. He approaches your bed. He does not hesitate. He is a craftsman, and this is the moment his true work begins. You try to scream, but your throat is a dry, constricted knot of terror. You try to pull away, but the weight of your wife and the baker holds you fast. You are trapped. You can only watch as the glowing, incandescent tip of the iron, a tiny, terrible sun, descends towards your leg. The moment it touches your flesh is a moment of pure, absolute, and world-ending apocalypse. It is not a simple pain. It is the end of all sensation. The world dissolves into a single, unified, and blinding white light. There is no sound. There is no thought. There is only the fire. It is a pain so profound, so total, that it is beyond the ability of your mind to even process. It is the pain of the universe being born and dying in a single, searing instant in the flesh of your thigh. Then, the other senses return, and they are a symphony of hell. First, the sound. It is a loud, violent, and wet sizzle. The sound of your own living, weeping flesh being instantly boiled and vaporized by the white-hot iron. It is the sound of your life being turned to steam. Then, the smell. It is the most horrific smell you have ever encountered. A smell that will haunt your nightmares for the rest of your life, however short that may be. It is the thick, greasy, and deeply nauseating smell of your own body being cooked. It is the smell of burning hair, of scorched skin, of fat rendering and turning to a black, bubbling char. It is the smell of a pig roast, but the pig is you. The surgeon is not just touching you. He is working. You can feel him pushing the pointed iron deep into the wound, probing, searching for the pockets of corruption he diagnosed. He is turning the raw, infected crater of your wound into a black, smoking, and cauterized pit. He is killing the flesh to save the life. A terrible and brutal logic. Your body, beyond the control of your own will, convulses on the bed. A single, long, and inhuman scream is torn from your throat. A sound of pure animal agony. You thrash against the weight of your captors, your muscles locked in a violent, desperate spasm. The surgeon works on, oblivious. When he is satisfied that he has burned out the deepest roots of the rot, he withdraws the iron. It is no longer glowing. Its tip is now coated in a black, foul-smelling char of your own burned flesh. He drops it with a loud clang into the bucket of water, and a great cloud of hissing steam erupts, filling the room with a new, metallic, and equally foul smell. But he is not done. He takes the second iron from the fire, the one with the flat, round head. This one is for sealing. He presses the flat, glowing disc against the entire surface of your open, smoking wound. The purpose is to sear the veins and the flesh shut, to create a hard, black, and protective barrier of burned tissue against the corrupting humors of the air. The pain, which you thought could not possibly get any worse, finds a new and even more profound level. And then, mercifully, the world ends. The white light returns, but this time it is a soft, welcoming, and peaceful light. The sounds of the room, the sizzle of your own flesh, your own screams, your wife's weeping, fade into a distant, gentle hum. The pain vanishes, replaced by a feeling of profound, floating peace. You have been pushed past the breaking point of human endurance. Your mind, as a final, desperate act of self-preservation, has simply shut itself off. You fall backwards into a deep, black, and utterly silent abyss. You are unconscious. You are free. You are floating in a peaceful, silent, and wonderfully dark abyss. There is no pain here. There is no fear. There is no sense of your own body, no weight of your own existence. There is only a profound, blessed, and absolute nothingness. It is the first moment of peace you have known since the chisel slipped. But it does not last. Slowly, reluctantly, the world begins to return. It comes not as a sudden jolt, but as a slow, creeping tide of sensation, each wave more unwelcome than the last. The first thing to return is sound. It is a low, muffled, and rhythmic sound, the sound of a woman weeping. It is a sound of deep, hopeless grief. And with it comes another sound, a man's voice, a low, gravelly rumble, speaking words you cannot yet understand. Then comes smell. It is the foulest of the senses to return. The air is thick, and you breathe it in. It is the smell of a blacksmith's forge, a sharp, metallic, and acrid smell of quenched, hot iron. But beneath that is another, more terrible smell. It is the greasy, cloying, and deeply nauseating scent of your own cooked flesh, a smell that will be forever burned into your memory. Your eyelids, heavy as lead shutters, flutter open. The familiar shapes of your bedchamber are a blurry, swimming mess. The light from the single candle is a painful, hazy star. You are looking up at the smoke-stained wooden beams of your own ceiling. You are back. You are in your body. And then the pain returns. It is a monster. It is a beast of unimaginable fury. The honest, throbbing fire of the infection was a simple thing compared to this. This is a new and complex symphony of agony. There is the deep, profound, and constant ache from the burn, a pain that feels as if it has settled into the very bone of your leg. And beneath that, the original, hot, and insistent throbbing of the infection is still there, a monstrous heartbeat that has not been silenced, but has in fact grown stronger, angrier, fed by the new trauma. Your leg is a universe of pure, unrelenting torment. With a monumental effort of will, you try to push yourself up on your elbows to look at the source of this new agony. No, my love, lie still, your wife's voice says, her face a blurry mask of tears as she tries to gently push you back down. But it is too late. You have seen it. Your leg is no longer your own. The familiar shape of your thigh, the landscape of muscle and skin you have known your entire life, is gone. In its place is a grotesque and alien thing. The wound is no longer a weeping, discolored gash. It is a gross, black, and puckered expanse of charred, dead flesh. The skin around it is a violent, swollen purple, and the edges of the burn are oozing a thin, foul-smelling, watery fluid. It is a landscape from a nightmare, a piece of hell that has been grafted onto your own body. You fall back onto the sweat-soaked pillows, a low animal moan escaping your lips. The surgeon's cleansing has not removed the corruption. It has simply built a new, dead layer on top of it. And the fever, which the bloodletting was meant to cure, now returns with a terrifying redoubled force. The brief, artificial cold from the loss of blood is gone, and a new, more powerful heat surges through you. Your body is a furnace, your skin a dry and burning desert. The world outside your own skin feels impossibly cold. You are racked with a new wave of shivers, your body trembling violently. But this time it is a shivering born not of cold, but of a fire that is consuming you from within. Your mind, which had found a brief peace in unconsciousness, now shatters into 1,000 pieces. The delirium is no longer a gentle fog, it is a raging storm. The familiar room becomes a theater of horrors. The dancing shadows on the wall are no longer just shadows. They are the elongated, skeletal figures of demons, their long fingers pointing at you, their silent mouths whispering your name. The patterns in the wood grain of the ceiling writhe and twist like a nest of serpents. You are no longer in your bed. You are in a boat on a river of fire, and the ferryman has the face of the surgeon. You are vaguely aware of the surgeon's presence, of him preparing to leave. His terrible work is done. You hear his voice, a distant, booming sound, giving final instructions to your wife. His words are a litany of his science, of his success. The corrupt, sanguine humor has been drawn out, he declares, his voice filled with professional pride. The putrefied flesh of the wound has been cleansed and sealed with fire. The gateways for the foul vapors are now closed. He prescribes the path to your recovery. Keep the wound bound. Do not disturb my work. His diet must be of thin gruel and water only, but not too much water, he warns. Water is a moist and cool element, and it will only feed the remaining feverish heat. A little wine is better. It is a warm and dry humor, and will help to balance him. His work here is finished. He has performed his craft according to the highest and most learned standards of his age. He has done everything right. He rolls up his blackened and blood-stained tools, takes the heavy purse of your family's future, and with a final, confident nod, he departs. You are left alone again, in the foul-smelling, pain-filled room, with only your weeping wife for a companion. You have been treated, you have been cured, but you are 1,000 times worse than before he arrived. The pain is an ocean that is drowning you. Your mind is a storm of terrifying ghosts, and your leg is a black, dead, and useless thing. Your wife looks down at you, her face a mask of absolute, soul-shattering despair. She has bankrupted her family and subjected her husband to the tortures of the damned, all for a cure that has only hastened your journey towards the grave. In her eyes, you see the reflection of one last, desperate, and even more ruinously expensive hope. The time for men of knives and hot irons is over. Now, only a man of books and learning can save you. You are lost. You are a ship without a rudder, adrift on a burning black sea of fever. Time has become a meaningless concept, a river that flows in strange, looping currents. One moment, you are a small boy again, watching your own father at his workbench, the air thick with the clean, honest smell of pine shavings. The next, you are back in the screaming, fiery hell of the surgeon's visit, the smell of your own burning flesh, a terrible, all-consuming reality. You cry out, but you do not know if the sound is real or just an echo in the fever dream of your own mind. In the brief, terrifying moments of lucidity that surface like islands in this sea of madness, you see your wife. Her face is a pale, drawn mask of grief and a new, terrible kind of resolve. The simple hope she had for the folk remedies is gone. The terrified awe she had for the surgeon's brutal craft is also gone. In their place is a hard, cold desperation. The man of knives and hot irons has failed. His cure has been a catastrophic poison. There is only one path left. It is the most expensive, the most respected, and perhaps the most hopeless path of all. She must call the physician. You understand the immense, world-altering gravity of this decision. A barber surgeon is a craftsman. He is a member of a guild, a tradesman who works with his hands. To hire him is a simple, if ruinous, financial transaction. But a physician is a different order of being. A physician is a scholar, a gentleman. He is a man who has studied at the great universities, at Oxford or Paris or Bologna. He reads the ancient masters, Galen and Hippocrates, in their original Latin and Greek. He does not work with his hands. To do so would be to engage in manual labor, a practice far beneath his exalted station. He is a man of pure intellect, of theory, of the great, complex, and elegant science of the humors. He does not treat common craftsmen like you. His patients are lords, bishops, and wealthy merchants. To summon a man of his stature to a humble house in a carpenter's district is an act of almost unthinkable social audacity. And the cost is a thing of legends. The surgeon's fee was your family's savings, the price of your finest tools. The physician's fee will be the price of your entire life. While you are lost in your fever, Your wife, now a general in her own desperate war, wages that battle. You are not there to see it, but you know what she must do. She leaves you in the care of old Elspeth, the midwife, whose face is now a mask of grim pity, and she goes out into the city. She goes first to the guild hall, to the master of your own carpenter's guild, and she sells the lease on your workshop. The place where you learned your craft, where you built your life. The very heart of your family's identity. It is sold for a handful of silver coins. She sells your master tools, the beautiful heavy planes and saws that were your father's and his father's before him. Each one a piece of your own history, of your own soul. But it is not enough. The physician's fee is greater still. So she must walk the final, most shameful path. She must go to the moneylender, a man who lives in the dark, narrow streets of the city's Lombard district. You can imagine the scene. Your proud, strong wife, forced to humble herself, to beg for a loan at an interest rate so ruinous that it will place your children and your children's children in a state of perpetual debt. She is selling not just your past, but your family's future. She returns late in the afternoon. She is a changed woman. She is pale, her eyes are hollow, but her face is set with the hard, brittle look of a soldier who has done a terrible but necessary thing. She does not need to tell you the cost. You can see it in her eyes. You can see the ghost of your workshop, of your tools, of your family's freedom, all reflected in her grief. She has succeeded. The physician has accepted the fee. He has agreed to come. The news does not bring you hope. In your lucid moments, the guilt is a fire that burns even hotter than the fever. You have done this. Your single, careless slip has not just wounded you, it has destroyed your family. You have brought them to ruin, all for the sake of your own rotting flesh. You lie in the quiet, tense atmosphere of the sick room. The afternoon light is beginning to fade. Old Elspeth has done what she can, applying a cool, damp cloth to your forehead. But she knows she is merely a witness now, waiting for the arrival of a science she does not understand. You wait, you listen, and then you hear it, a new footstep on the stair. It is not the heavy clumping tread of the surgeon. It is a light, slow, and deliberate step. It is the sound of a soft leather shoe on the wood. It is the sound of a scholar. The man of blades and fire has failed you. Now, your last, desperate, and ruinously expensive hope lies in the great, theoretical mind of the man of books. You are drifting on a black ocean of pain. Your consciousness, a small battered raft. The only solid thing in your world is the sound of your wife's quiet, desperate weeping. You have been lying in this state for what feels like an eternity, waiting. The surgeon has come and gone, a brutal whirlwind of fire and iron, and has left you in a worse hell than the one he found you in. Now, you await the arrival of a different kind of healer, a man whose price has cost your family its past and its future. You are waiting for the physician. You hear his footsteps on the stairs. They are not the heavy, clumping tread of the surgeon. They are light, slow, and deliberate. The soft, confident steps of a man who has never had to hurry in his life. The door to your chamber opens, and he enters. He is like a creature from a different world. He is a tall, slender man, and where the surgeon was a bull, he is a crane. He is dressed in the long, dark, and elegant robes of a scholar, the fine wool trimmed with expensive squirrel fur. His hands, which he holds clasped before him, are pale, his fingers long and slender, the nails impeccably clean. He smells not of the city, but of his own refined world, a clean, dry scent of old books, of the exotic herbs he keeps in his study, and a faint, sweet perfume from a pomander that hangs from his belt. His first action tells you everything you need to know about the vast, unbridgeable gulf that separates his world from yours. He pauses in the doorway, his thin nostrils flaring in distaste at the foul sickroom smell of your chamber. He produces a fine linen handkerchief, scented with rosewater, and delicately holds it to his nose. He is not just blocking the odor, he is creating a barrier between his own refined person and the crude, corrupting reality of your suffering. He does not approach you. To a physician of his standing, direct physical contact with a sick body is a form of manual labor, a task for lowly barber surgeons and midwives. His is a higher calling, a science of the mind, not of the hands. He observes you from the foot of your bed, his gaze cool, detached, and analytical. He is not looking at a suffering man. He is looking at a complex and fascinating puzzle. The fever is high, he says, his voice a quiet, precise, and academic murmur. He is not speaking to you, but to your wife. The breathing is shallow. The choleric humor is clearly in ascendance. He takes a slow, deliberate walk around your bed, his eyes scanning every detail, but always from a safe, professional distance. He looks at the color of your skin, the sweat on your brow, the wild, unfocused look in your eyes. He leans in slightly, not to touch you, but to sniff the air around your head, like a wine merchant assessing a new vintage. "Ah," he says with a nod of satisfaction. The breath is sweet and heavy, a sign of the blood's corruption, a burning of the vital spirits. You watch this strange, distant ritual through the swirling fog of your delirium. This great and learned man, this last desperate hope for whom your wife has sacrificed everything, is ignoring the black, smoking, and agonizing ruin of your leg, and is instead wandering your room, sniffing the air like a hound. The sheer, terrifying absurdity of it all is a new and special kind of madness. Finally, he turns to your wife. "The flask," he says. It is a command. This is the true purpose of his visit. This is the heart of his diagnostic art. Your wife scurries to a small table and returns with a clear glass flask. It is a matula, a vessel specifically designed for this purpose, its shape meant to mimic the human bladder. She had to borrow it from the local apothecary, another small cost in the mountain of your debt. She holds it with a mixture of reverence and profound shame. It contains your urine. The physician takes the flask. He does not treat it as a foul waste product. He treats it as a sacred text, a letter written by your own body that only he, with his years of study, can read. He holds the flask up to the weak, gray light of the window. He does not glance at it. He studies it. You watch, helpless, as the most learned medical mind in the city performs the science of uroscopy. He holds the flask aloft, his brow furrowed in intense, scholarly concentration. He is not looking for signs of blood or sickness in a way you would understand. He is reading the humors. He examines the color. A deep, reddish yellow, he murmurs to himself. Almost orange. The color is strong, very strong. He swirls the liquid gently, observing its thickness. There is a viscosity. The phlegmatic humor is disturbed, thickened by the internal heat. He holds it still and squints, examining the contents for sediment, for what he calls the cloud. He is dividing the liquid in the flask into different zones, each one corresponding to a different part of your body, a complex and entirely imaginary map of your internal organs. The cloudy sediment at the bottom, he believes, tells him about your kidneys and bladder. The clearer liquid at the top tells him about the state of your head and your mind. You lie there, a prisoner in your own body, and you watch this man, this great scholar, as he stands in your humble room, holding a bottle of your own piss up to the light, as if it were a precious jewel, his face a mask of the most profound and serious concentration. The black, cauterized, and gangrenous wound on your leg, the true and obvious source of your impending death, remains completely unexamined beneath your blanket. The disconnect between the terrible reality of your physical state and the bizarre, detached, and utterly useless ritual he is performing is so immense, so insane, that for a moment you think you have already died and this is some strange, formal mockery in the afterlife. His diagnosis, the verdict upon which your life now depends, is being divined not from your body, but from its shadow. The physician stands by the single, grimy window of your chamber, a tall, dark silhouette against the weak, gray light of the London afternoon. He holds the glass flask of your urine, the medulla, up to the light, not as a doctor examining a sample, but as a jeweler appraising a difficult and complex gem. His entire being is focused on the contents of that flask, the sounds of your own pained, shallow breathing, the soft weeping of your wife, the crackle of the fire. All of it is irrelevant noise to him. The true story, the entire and absolute truth of your sickness, is contained within this glass vessel. You watch him through the swimming, distorted haze of your fever. His work is a silent, intense, and deeply mysterious ritual. He is not just looking at the color. He is engaged in a complex and learned act of interpretation. In his mind, he is comparing the liquid spectacle in the flask to a chart, a great wheel of knowledge he has memorized through years of study at the university in Bologna. It is the uroscopy chart, the great map of all human sickness. You can almost picture it, this chart you have heard scholars speak of, a great circular diagram with 20 different colors of urine, arranged like the hours of a clock. It is a rainbow of disease, from the pale, straw-like albus of a healthy, balanced man, to the milky white of a phlegmatic sickness, to the pale green of a melancholic imbalance. It progresses through a dozen shades of yellow, orange, and red, citrinous, subrufous, rubicundus, each shade. Each subtle variation in hue, a different word in the language of your body's internal war. And at the end of the spectrum are the darkest, most terrifying colors. The deep, bruised purple, the green-black, and finally, the absolute black, the Niger, which is not a diagnosis, but a death sentence. The physician turns the flask slowly in the light, his sharp eyes examining not just the color, but the consistency. He is looking for the substantia. Is the liquid thin and watery, a sign of a raw and undigested humor? Or is it thick, viscous, a sign of a humor that has been dangerously cooked by the fever? He holds it still now, his gaze fixed on the contents. He is reading the zones. He is reading the nubecula, the cloud. To him, the liquid in the flask is not a uniform thing. It is a tiny cosmos, a world divided into spheres. The top of the liquid, the circulus, represents your head, your brain, your spirit. The middle section corresponds to your heart, your liver, your vital organs. And the bottom, the fundus, where the heavy sediment settles, is the key to the lower parts of your body. He is looking at the shape and position of the cloud within these zones, a form of meteorological prediction for the weather of your own body. Remarkable, he murmurs, more to himself than to anyone else. He is a scholar who has just encountered a particularly interesting passage in a difficult text. He turns to your wife, who is watching him with a desperate, uncomprehending reverence. He holds the flask up for her to see, as if she could possibly understand its terrible secrets. "Observe, good woman," he says, his voice the calm, detached tone of a lecturer. The color is not a simple red. It is rufus intensis, an intense red, almost the color of a poppy. This confirms my initial suspicion of a profound sanguine excess. The blood humor is not nearly boiling. It is burning. It has an adustum, a scorched quality. He swirls the flask gently. But look closer at the cloud. It is not uniform. See how it is broken apart? It is furfurosua, like flakes of bran. This is a sign of a great internal wind, a disruption of the spiritus, likely caused by the choleric humor's dryness. The two are fighting, the moist blood and the dry bile, and the battleground is his own flesh. You lie there, a prisoner on your sweat-soaked mattress, and you listen to this man speak of your body as if it were a foreign country, a landscape of winds and tides that only he has the maps to navigate. You can feel the specific, localized, and all-consuming fire in your leg, a fire that was started by a simple piece of iron. But he speaks of a different fire, a great, systemic, and philosophical fire that is burning up your soul. He now unplugs the top of the flask and, holding his perfumed handkerchief aside for a moment, he wafts the air above the opening toward his nose. He takes a single, short, and professional sniff. His expression is one of grim satisfaction. And the odor, he declares, is heavy and sweet, almost like rotting apples. This is a fatal sign. It indicates that the body's natural heat is being overcome by a preternatural heat. The corruption is not just in the blood. It has begun to cook the very liver itself. His diagnosis is complete. He has read the text. He has interpreted the signs. He has used the full power of his learned ancient science. He now understands your condition with an absolute and unshakable certainty. The black, cauterized, and gangrenous wound on your thigh, which is the gaping, obvious, and true source of your impending death, remains hidden, unexamined, and entirely irrelevant beneath your blanket. His science has no need for such crude, physical evidence. The truth, the whole and entire truth, was in the flask. He sets the matula down on the table with a soft, definitive click. The examination is over. He turns away from the window, his face a mask of grim, scholarly seriousness. He has looked into the very soul of your sickness, and he is now ready to deliver his final, authoritative, and utterly useless prescription. The physician sets the glass flask of your urine down on the table with a soft, definitive click. The long, silent, and deeply strange examination is complete. He has held your body's secrets up to the light. He has read the dark, cloudy text of your affliction. And now he turns away from the window, his face a mask of grim, scholarly seriousness. He has finished his science. It is time to deliver his judgment. He does not address you. In your state of delirious, feverish agony, you are no longer a participant in your own fate. You are merely the subject of his learned discourse. He speaks to your wife, who stands before him, her hands clasped, her face a portrait of desperate, hopeful attention. She hangs on his every word as if he were an oracle, a man who has communed with the gods and returned with a prophecy. "Good woman," the physician begins, his voice the calm, measured, and slightly disdainful tone of a professor addressing a particularly slow student. "Your husband's condition is, as the flask has so clearly shown us, most grave." He pauses, allowing the weight of his pronouncement to settle in the small, quiet room. He suffers from a severe adustion of the blood humor, which has been violently agitated by an excess of choler or yellow bile. In simpler terms, he says, condescending to translate his great learning into a language a simple woman might understand, a great and unnatural fire has taken hold in his liver. This fire is boiling his vital spirits, turning his blood to a corrupt and feverish steam, which now rises to afflict his mind and his heart. A diagnosis is a masterpiece of medieval theory. It is elegant, comprehensive, and has absolutely nothing to do with the raging bacterial infection that is currently consuming your leg. He has not mentioned the wound once. In his world of pure intellectual theory, the black, festering, cauterized horror on your thigh is a mere footnote, a crude and uninteresting symptom of this much grander, more philosophical disease. Now that he has maimed the enemy, he outlines the campaign to defeat it. He explains the foundational principle of his art, the great law of opposites, passed down from the master Galen himself. To fight a disease that is hot and dry in its nature, he lectures, we must apply remedies that are cool and moist. We must quench the internal fire. We must reintroduce a gentle, balancing dew into the scorched fields of his body. He begins to write his prescription, taking out a small piece of fine parchment and a quill. It is a long, complex, and ruinously expensive list of instructions. First, the herbs, he declares. He must drink 3 times a day a tisane of willow bark. The willow is a tree that loves the water. Its nature is therefore profoundly cool and moist. It will soothe the boiling of his blood. He does not know that the bark contains a chemical that can, indeed, reduce a fever. But he has arrived at this correct answer through a completely incorrect and magical logic. A poultice, he continues, must be applied to his forehead, not the crude dung and cobweb concoction of the common folk, but one of science. You will take a fresh cucumber. It must be a green and watery one, and you will crush it into a fine paste with the petals of a white rose. The cucumber is one of the coldest of all vegetables, and the white rose is a flower of the moon, which is a cool and moist planet. This will draw the feverish vapors down from his brain. He adds more to the list. He must chew, throughout the day, on the leaves of the lettuce. Lettuce is a plant of almost pure water and earth. It is a creature of profound and sleepy coldness. This will help to pacify the aggressive, choleric fire. Then comes the dietary prescription, another list of prohibitions and commands designed to starve the fever. He is to have no meat, especially not red meat, for that is a hot and sanguine food. He is to have no wine, for that is a creature of fire. He is to have no pepper, no ginger, no spices of any kind, for they are the agents of dryness and heat. Instead, his diet is to be one of thin, watery barley soup, poached fish, a cold-blooded creature from a cool and watery realm, and more lettuce. It is a weak, insipid, and nutritionally barren diet for a man whose body is desperately in need of strength and calories to fight off a massive systemic infection. Finally, the physician addresses the spiritual side of the affliction. And of course, you must pray, he says, his voice taking on a new tone of pious gravity. You will make prayers to Saint Blaise, the patron of all ailments of the throat and fevers. And I would suggest that a donation of a silver penny to the Church of St. Giles, in my name, would be a wise and prudent course of action. He finishes writing and sprinkles the ink with a fine sand to dry it. He rolls up the small parchment scroll. He has, in his mind, created a perfect, multi-pronged attack on your disease, a strategy that addresses the humors, the diet, and the soul. At no point does he mention the wound in your leg. He gives no instructions for cleaning it, for changing the bandage, for applying any kind of salve. In the great, elegant, and scholarly world of the university-trained physician, such a crude, physical thing is of no consequence. It is a matter for the butchers and the bone setters. His concern is with the higher, more refined science of your internal, invisible landscape. He hands the prescription to your wife, who takes it as if it were a holy relic. He collects the second and larger half of his enormous fee. He gives a final, solemn, and self-satisfied nod, and then he departs, a great and learned man who has done his duty and dispensed his wisdom. Your wife is left clutching the expensive piece of paper. It is her last hope. She now has a new, complex, and deeply important set of tasks to perform. She must go to the apothecary and spend the last of her money on willow bark and rose petals. She must prepare the barley water. She must pray. She has been given the illusion of a new and powerful way to fight for your life, while the real war, the one that matters, continues to be lost, unseen and untreated, in the silent, separated, festering, and now completely ignored wound in your thigh. The physician is gone. His soft, scholarly footsteps fade down the stairs, leaving behind a silence in the room that is heavier and more profound than before. The air is still thick with the foul smell of your wound and the strange herbal scent of the physician's perfume, a ghostly reminder of his brief, devastating visit. You are lost in the inferno of your fever, a passenger in your own dying body. But your wife, she is awake, she is lucid, and she is standing in the ruins of your life. She stands in the center of the small, dim room, a lone figure in the aftermath of a great storm. In one hand, she clutches the physician's prescription, the rolled-up piece of parchment that contains the last, desperate hope of a cure. In her other hand, she holds the small, now empty cloth purse that held the moneylender's coins. She is the keeper of the accounts, the steward of your family's sudden and absolute ruin. The great men of medicine have performed their duties and taken their fees. Now, in the quiet of the sick room, your wife begins to tally the true cost. Her gaze drifts to the small empty shelf by the hearth. For 10 years, her 2 silver dowry goblets, a gift from her own mother, had sat there. They were her pride, the symbol of her own family status, the single most valuable objects in this house. They are gone. They were the price of the surgeon's visit, the price of the bloodletting, of the hot irons, of the terrible, searing pain you endured. She had traded her past for a cure that only brought more pain. She thinks of the morning, of the frantic, humiliating journey she had to make while you lay here moaning. She thinks of walking to the Carpenters' Guildhall, a place she had only ever entered with you on her arm during festival days. She remembers the shame of standing before the guildmaster, a man who respected you, and telling him that your workshop, the one your father had built, was for sale. She remembers the pity in his eyes as he gave her a fraction of its true worth, a handful of coins for a lifetime of work. That was the first part of the physician's fee. She thinks of the walk to the Lombard district, to the dark, narrow street of the moneylenders. She remembers the smell of the moneylender's office, the smell of foreign coins and cold, indifferent greed. She remembers the shame of begging, of pleading, of signing a contract with her own unsteady hand, a contract that pledged your house, your future, and the labor of your own son as collateral against a loan with an interest so high it was a form of damnation. This was the second part of the physician's fee, the price of his scholarly pronouncements, of his 15 minutes of sniffing the air and staring at your urine in a flask. And now, she looks at the prescription in her hand. It is not an end to the cost. It is a new beginning. She knows what these words mean. Willow bark, rose petals, cucumber. These are not things that grow in her small garden. These are things that must be bought from the apothecary, a man whose prices are as high as the physician's. The cost of the cure is a river that never stops flowing. She looks around the small room. She sees your woodworking tools. You're beautiful. Honest planes and saws, stacked neatly in the corner. She knows they must be sold next. She looks at her own simple wedding ring, her last remaining treasure. She knows it too will have to go. She has traded everything. Your past, represented by her dowry and your family's tools. Your present, represented by your workshop and your home. And your future, represented by the terrible, binding debt to the moneylender. She has sold your entire existence, all for the hope of saving the one thing that truly matters. And she looks at you. You are moaning softly now, your head tossing back and forth on the sweat-soaked pillow. Your skin is hot to the touch, your body a furnace. You are not better. You are worse. The learned man's promises, his talk of humors and balances, feels like a cruel, distant lie in the face of the raw, physical reality of your suffering. A terrible, blasphemous doubt begins to creep into her mind, a cold serpent in the ruins of her hope. Has she done the right thing? Has she impoverished her children and doomed her family to a generation of debt, all for a cure that is no cure at all? The great, respected, and expensive system of care that she has just paid for with her entire world has left her husband in a state of torment worse than any she could have imagined. The irony is a weight so crushing it almost brings her to her knees. It was not the simple, honest slip of the chisel that has destroyed you. It was the cure. She stands there for a long moment, the parchment shaking in her hand, on the verge of a despair so profound it could swallow her whole. But then she straightens her back. Her face, which was a mask of grief, now sets into a mask of grim, unbreakable resolve. The doubt must be cast out. To doubt the physician is to doubt the very structure of the world, to doubt the wisdom of the ancients, to doubt God himself. To doubt is to surrender, and she will not surrender. The learned physician has spoken. His prescription is the only path. It is her only hope. She must have faith. She takes the few heavy coins from the purse, the price of your future, and tucks them safely into her dress. She smooths her apron. She has one last journey to make today. She must now go to the apothecary and purchase the expensive, useless, and perhaps even harmful ingredients for the physician's learned cure. She must do this because the alternative, to do nothing, is to admit that she has already sacrificed everything for a lie. Your wife returns from the apothecary as the last of the afternoon light fades from the sky. She clutches a small, expensive-looking paper parcel in her hand. It contains the strange and fragrant ingredients of your last hope. The willow bark, the dried rose petals, the expensive herbs prescribed by the great physician. The purse that once held your family's entire future is now empty, its contents exchanged for this small collection of leaves and roots. The chamber is now a sanctuary of the physician's science. Your wife becomes a high priestess, meticulously enacting the complex and holy ritual of his prescription. The outside world ceases to exist. There is only this room, your dying body, and her desperate, methodical fight to save you. She begins with the tisane. She builds up the fire in the hearth and boils the water. Her movements precise. She steeps the slivers of pale willow bark, and the room fills with a sharp, bitter, medicinal smell. She brings the steaming cup to your lips. You are barely conscious, a creature of pure instinctual sensation, lost in the raging furnace of your fever. You feel the hot, bitter liquid being poured into your mouth. You swallow, not out of will, but out of a desperate animal thirst. The liquid does nothing to quench the fire within you. Next, she prepares the poultice. She crushes the cool, watery flesh of a cucumber in a stone mortar, mixing it with the delicate, fragrant petals of a white rose until it becomes a soft, green, and wonderfully cool-smelling paste. This is the remedy for the fire in your mind. She gently pushes your sweat-soaked hair back from your forehead and applies the cool, soothing balm. For a fleeting, blessed moment, you feel a whisper of relief. A tiny island of cool in an ocean of burning heat. But it is a ghost of a sensation, and in a moment, it too is consumed by the relentless fire of your fever. She follows every instruction to the letter. She tries to spoon the thin, watery barley soup into your mouth, but you cannot swallow it. She chews on a lettuce leaf herself, and then places the cool, moist shred on your cracked, dry lips, hoping its cool nature will offer some relief. In she prays. She kneels on the cold stone floor beside your bed, her hands clasped, her eyes fixed on the crucifix hanging on the wall. Her voice is a low, desperate, and ceaseless murmur, a river of prayer that flows through the long hours of the night. She recites the prescribed prayers to Saint Blaise, her voice growing hoarse, her words a desperate, trembling shield against the encroaching darkness. But while she is engaged in this meticulous, holy, and utterly useless battle, the real war is being lost, catastrophically, inside your own body. The infection, which was a fire in your leg, has now become a raging, systemic conflagration. It has broken free from the wound and is consuming you. Your fever climbs to a new, terrifying peak. Your body, which was shivering just this morning, is now a furnace, radiating a heat so intense that it is a shock to touch. The sweat pours from you, soaking the straw mattress beneath you. But it brings no relief, no breaking of the fever. Your mind, which was a swirling fog, is now a raging storm. The delirium is absolute. You are no longer in your bedchamber in London. You are in a desert of black sand, and the sun is a great, weeping eye. You are in your workshop, but the walls are made of fire, and the tools are glowing red hot. You cry out to your wife, but you do not see her. You see the face of the surgeon, his beard a nest of serpents, his teeth made of iron. You are not a man dying of a fever. You are a soul already trapped in the torments of hell. The sound of your own breathing becomes a terrifying thing. It is a shallow, rapid, and rattling sound. A wet, rasping noise that speaks of a body that is drowning from within. It is the sound of your own life slipping away. And the wound. The wound is a silent, black testament to the failure of all human knowledge. Beneath the surgeon's bandage and the physician's useless herbs, the gangrene is advancing with a terrible, silent speed. The flesh of your leg is dying. Your wife, in her vigil, sees all of this. As the night wears on, her movements become slower, more mechanical. The terrible, unspoken truth begins to dawn in her heart. The tisane is not working. The poultice is not working. The prayers are not working. The great, learned, and expensive science of the physician is as powerless against this sickness as old Elspeth's dung poultice. The last of her hope begins to die. She continues the rituals, not out of faith anymore, but out of a desperate, mechanical need to do something, because the alternative is to sit and simply watch you die. The deepest hour of the night arrives. The candle has burned down to a sputtering stub. The city outside is as silent as the grave. Your breathing is now a faint, shallow whisper. The rattle in your chest a soft, final sigh. The prayers of your wife have fallen silent. The expensive, untouched herbs sit in their bowl on the table. She sits beside you, holding your hot, dry hand. There are no more doctors to call. There is no more money to spend. There are no more remedies to try. She has done everything. She has sacrificed your past, your present, and your future. And it has all been for nothing. She is now just a woman, sitting in the dark, a lonely and helpless witness to the end. The final, quiet moments are approaching. The deepest part of the night passes. The candle on the table sputters and dies, plunging the room into a near total darkness. But you do not notice. The world of light and shadow has already receded from you. You are in a place beyond sight, beyond sound, a quiet internal landscape of fading memories and dissipating pain. The great, roaring fire of the fever, which has consumed you for 2 days, now begins to burn itself out. The raging, systemic war being fought in your blood is reaching its conclusion, and as the battle subsides, a strange and profound peace begins to settle over you. The first gift of this coming peace is the cessation of pain. The great throbbing and monstrous agony in your leg, which has been your entire universe, begins to recede. It does not vanish, but it becomes distant, a dull, muffled echo, as if it is a storm happening in a faraway valley. The searing heat of your skin cools, replaced by a gentle, neutral calm. For the first time in what feels like a lifetime, you are not in pain. The sounds of the room, which were once a source of torment, now become a soft and distant music. Your wife's quiet, exhausted weeping is no longer a sound of grief, but a gentle, rhythmic shushing, like the sound of the river that flowed past your childhood home. From outside, you can hear the first tentative chirp of a sparrow, a sound of impossible beauty and hope. Your mind, which has been a chaotic theater of terrifying, feverish nightmares, now becomes a calm, gray, and peaceful fog. The demons in the shadows have fled. The ghosts of your past have grown silent. You are floating. You feel a profound and wonderful sense of lightness, as if the heavy, painful, and treacherous vessel of your body has finally released you, its unwilling passenger. You are a wisp of smoke, drifting up from a dying fire. And in this final, quiet, and peaceful state, a single, perfect memory comes to you. It is not a frantic, feverish hallucination. It is a moment of pure, clear, and simple grace. You are not in this dark, foul-smelling sick room. You are in your workshop. It is a bright summer afternoon, and the air is golden with dust motes and the smell of fresh-cut pine. You are a young man again, and you are holding your son's hand, his small fingers wrapped tightly around your own calloused one. You are teaching him how to hold a small wooden plane, how to feel the grain of the wood, how to shave off a perfect, curling ribbon of timber. You can see the look of intense, serious concentration on his face. You can feel the warmth of his small hand in yours. You can smell the clean, honest scent of the wood. You are at peace. You are happy. You can feel your wife's hand holding your own. You can feel her tears, warm on your cold skin. You try to tell her about the memory, about the workshop, about the perfect sunlit afternoon. But you have no more words. Your breathing, which was a shallow, ragged, and desperate thing, now becomes slower, deeper, more peaceful. You take one final, gentle breath in, and then, with a soft, quiet sigh, you let it go, and you do not take another. Your wife sits in the cold, gray light of the dawn, holding your now limp and cooling hand. She listens to the sudden, profound, and absolute silence in the room, a silence where your breathing used to be. She knows that it is over. The story ends here. You are dead. The simple, clean wound from the chisel did not kill you. The well-intentioned but filthy folk remedy did not kill you, though it surely invited the enemy in. The surgeon's brutal fire and iron, a torturous but accepted practice of his trade, did not kill you. The physician's elegant, learned, and ruinously expensive prescription of useless herbs did not kill you. You were killed by something far more powerful, a force that united them all. You were killed by their profound, absolute, and unshakable ignorance. In a world without the simple knowledge of the invisible life that causes infection, their every attempt to save you was merely a different and more elaborate way of killing you. You were not killed by the wound. You were killed by the cure. And so, we leave that small, dark, and tragic room, and we return to the quiet of our own time. Your story is not a unique one. It is the story of millions. It is the story of humanity's long, dark, and terrified struggle against sickness and injury, in a world where the very concept of a germ was a piece of unthinkable magic. Picture yourself now in a modern clinic. You have a simple cut, just like the one that began our story. A person in a clean uniform washes their hands with soap and warm water. They gently wipe your skin with a small, cool cloth that smells of a clean, sharp chemical. They apply a simple, sterile bandage, and perhaps they give you a small plastic bottle of inexpensive pills, a course of antibiotics. This is the modern miracle. It is a quiet, boring, and almost insultingly simple routine. But every single step of that routine, the clean hands, the antiseptic, the sterile dressing, the antibiotic, is a life-saving technology that was completely unknown to the most learned and expensive physicians of the past. The greatest medical luxury we possess is not a complex surgery or a futuristic machine. It is the simple, foundational knowledge of the germ theory of disease. It is the understanding that the enemy is not a foul vapor or an imbalance of the humors, but a microscopic organism that can be defeated by the simple act of being clean. And now, as our story ends, it is time to be grateful for the quiet, sterile, and boring safety of our own time. Time to rest in a world where, for the most part, a simple cut is just a simple cut. Time to sleep.